Alright, so today on Ed's Garage, we are going to try to diagnose a wheel speed sensor circuit malfunction on a 2008 Saturn Vue. You may have seen a couple of my videos before. If you have, thank you so much for watching. I will say, currently I am employed with Abbotsford Hyundai dealership, so if you are looking for a vehicle, please let me know and I'll see if I can help you out. Yeah, this is a Saturn. I work for Hyundai, whatever. I do drive a Hyundai myself. This is my wife's vehicle. But what we're going to do today is we're going to pull off the rear right wheel, look at the wheel speed sensor, see if we can figure out what's going on. Basically, I've got a StabiliTrak disabled, I've got traction control disabled, and a service engine lights on with a code of C1224, which was why I figured rear right wheel speed sensor, apparently that's related. Alright, so I got the car jacked up. I still need to put a jack stand underneath there. I'm not going to tell you guys how to jack up a car safely because, quite frankly, I don't want to be liable for your stupid mistakes. So I'll show you how I did it and you can decide whether or not it's safe. So what I did was I put wheel blocks on both sides of one of the front wheels so that it can't roll forwards and backwards. I've got the jack right underneath a good solid part of the vehicle there. And now I'm going to put a jack stand underneath another good solid part of the vehicle. Now I do need to go up a little bit higher, so let's do that. Alright, so still not quite high enough. Right about there. So now the jack is holding up the weight of the car, and the jack stand is basically well, actually it's pretty tight under there as well. But I got enough clearance to pull the wheel off. So both the jack and the stand are holding the vehicle up. Alright? So, again, you do it how you want. Just do it smart. Alright, about to pull the wheel off. I'm going to use my trusty Ryobi impact driver. I'm really a fan of these Ryobi tools. They're good quality, they last long, and batteries are great. It's got a lithium-ion battery. It's 72 watt hours, 18 volts. They're pretty good. I like cheap stuff that works, and this is cheap stuff that works. I don't work for Ryobi, but I really love these tools. Alright, let's do this. Alright, so got the wheel off. Now basically I'm just going to check all the wiring that goes up to the sensor and check the sensor itself. Remember guys, I'm not a mechanic. I am some guy that just likes to work on shit by himself and pretend I'm a mechanic sometimes. So in this particular one we are going to pull off the rotor hub assembly. This particular vehicle is four-wheel disc brakes. So there's a drum assembly on the inside of this brake rotor for the emergency brake, which means I got to pull this off and we're going to see an emergency brake system underneath and hopefully a wheel speed sensor that I can fix. Alright, so let's get at it. First thing I need to do in order to take this rotor off is I need to move the caliper out of the way. Alright, so this video could actually also be substituted as a how to do your rear brake pads, because I mean essentially I'm going to get right down to the brake pads. No, they weren't that loose, I pre-loosened them. So I'm used to a different vehicle where the bolt there is actually part of the slider. But check this out. So the whole caliper is loose now, and I'm pulling the whole thing off, and the brake pads are just staying there nicely. Alright, so now the slider is actually right here. Alright, see that? Woo! Okay, so this is where you gotta be careful. This is a brake line, it's a rubberized brake line. It's a rubber brake line. God forbid, you do not want to just let this caliper hang on that brake line, okay? The caliper weighs a lot, the brake line is well, it's not fragile, but I mean it's not good to just let it hang there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab something to basically hang this caliper out of the way so I'm not damaging that brake line. Alright, so there we go. Caliper is now hanging from a little mini bungee cord. These are awesome bungee cords for shit like this. Yeah, caliper's hanging safely. There's no crazy twist going on in the brake line. And yeah, so if you're wondering how to replace your brake pads, well, look at that. There they are. Couldn't be easier, right? Now, we do need to take all of this apart because we got to get this brake disc off. So, yeah, if you're replacing your brake pads, that is how you get down to your brake pads. And as you can see, I've got tons of brake left, so I don't need to replace my brake pads. So I'm just going to take these out and get them out of the way. Alright, while I'm here, actually, if you see this little guy right here, that's your squealer. As your brake pads come down to a low amount, that squealer is what's causing the noise that you hear when your brake pads are gone. Makes a high-pitched squeal. Alright, also in here, you got these little retainer brackets. These are basically to help minimize vibration, keep your brake pads in the exact proper location. And it's a good idea to actually lubricate, or not lubricate, but get some brake pad silicone greasy, well, it is lubrication really, silicone grease to put on these spots as well. It helps to reduce vibration, which can cause more noise and squealing. Okay, so now I need to take this caliper bracket off. Alright, so the original plan was to pull out the sliders and clean them all up and everything, but I've determined that they're still really good. They still slide beautifully. There's lots of pressure in there actually keeping them in. I don't feel any scraping, any binding or anything like that, so these calipers are fine, or these caliper brackets, the slide pins are fine. They don't need to be disassembled and cleaned at this time. That was easy. Glad it was that easy. Okay, so we now have access to the brake drum assembly for the emergency brake. Looks like pads are still pretty good. Pad lining on brake drum brakes is generally not as thick as pad thickness for disc brakes. As you can see, quite a difference. But that's okay, because they're not designed to be. Well, what we need to do now is find the wheel speed sensor. Oh God, I do not know. It's coming in right there. It looks like it's. It actually looks like it's right in here. All right, so I did a little bit of digging, and apparently the wheel speed sensor circuit malfunction is like almost always just the wheel speed sensor is pooched. Now I already know where the wheel speed sensor is. I thought it was going to be a little bit complicated to take care of, but it actually looks pretty simple now that I've kind of looked at it better. What I need to do, this is my line coming in that's connected to the wheel speed sensor, and it goes through the assembly here, comes out on this side, or you can see it right there, and then it's held in by one sort of bolt that's got an Allen head, or an Allen key head. So what I need to do is actually just take off the brake drum assembly pad, the brake pad assembly here, and pull that out. I'm going to try cleaning it first and see what that does. Alright, so to remove brake drum pads, it's the same on every vehicle I've ever seen, pretty much. There's some sort of springing mechanism that pushes the pad inwards, and to release it, there's a little clip right here that you basically turn. And as soon as you turn it, this spring will let go. Sometimes it's a coil spring, other times it's this design. So I think I just need to turn this. I may need to do two hands for this.
I think I actually do, because it looks like I got to sort of push this in and turn that at the same time. So I'll get back to you. So I managed to pull off both of the clips, springs. Those are like clippy spring things. And to my surprise, the actual drum brake pads didn't just explode out in a fury of loose parts. And it actually pulled it forward enough that I can actually get in behind there. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. I can actually get in behind and loosen that right there. That's what I got to loosen in order to release the sensor. So I'm just going to do that from here without taking everything apart, and hope to hell that it doesn't just explode on me. So I got to take that bolt out. Alright, so trying to get this thing out, trying to pry it out. It's actually quite tight in there. I bashed my knuckle a little bit, but really good thing to do when you slice yourself while working on your car or whatever. Is just ignore it and stop being a whiner. So after some cursing and swearing, I finally managed to get the wheel speed sensor out. Unfortunately, either it was broken or I broke it getting it out. Come on, focus. So that sucks. Now I need to take everything apart. And I gotta pull the hub out. So possibly some good news. After having a look at what a wheel speed sensor looks like on the inside of the wheel hub, I think I might be able to get that little bit out of there just using a pick tool like this little tiny screwdriver. Because as soon as I stick it in, okay, this is really hard holding the camera, but as soon as I put it in there, I can actually move it a little bit. I think what's holding it in there is actually just the air pressure in behind it. So I'm going to try to pick that out.
Okay, well, I had an idea and it worked. Basically, that little piece of the wheel speed sensor was stuck inside the hub assembly, and I got it out. And the way I did it was I drilled a hole in it, put a screw in it, pulled the screw out. There we go. And that worked. So there is our broken piece. And the fact that it broke that easily leads me to believe that maybe that's essentially why it wasn't working. But yeah, let's have a look inside the wheel hub and see if we can see the gear that it senses. Alright, so if we look inside the hub here, let's see. I'll turn the light on. Alright, so you can see inside that hole there's a toothed gear, and as that gear turns, let's go back to it actually where it was. Okay, just a little bit of grease on there, no big deal. So as that wheel turns, the speed sensor uses basically a magnetic sort of sensing thing to sense the pulsation of that going by, and that's how it's able to determine the speed of the wheel. And it actually looks really good. Alright, so it's day 2 of filming for the wheel speed sensor repair. Reason being it's day 2 is because, well, I had to get a new wheel speed sensor, and the place that I got it from, unfortunately, could not get it yesterday. So here's an interesting bit of information. If you are looking for car parts, there's a lot of different places that you can purchase car parts, both in Canada and the United States. Of course, where I live in British Columbia, Canada, we've got such companies as Lordco, TNT Auto Parts, Napa Auto Parts, Fortin's Auto Parts, and also Canadian Tire, to name a few. So those are the ones that are in my hometown, so I tried them all. This is the wheel speed sensor that I picked up. So I want to give you an idea of price discrepancies though. I mean, this is a pretty simple device. It's a magnetic sensor and a wire, and that's pretty much it. It actually came with a screw and a little bit of lithium grease. But here's the thing. So I bought this wheel speed sensor from TNT Auto Parts. Why? Well, the first place that I called was Lordco. The price that they quoted was $67 for a wheel speed sensor that you can get a Rock Auto for 25 bucks. Okay. Second place that I called was Napa Auto Parts. Don't have any accounts with them. They quoted me $81 or $82. Third place that I called was Fortin's Automotive. They quoted, if I remember correctly, it was, actually, you know what? Fortin's Automotive was $65. Lordco was more expensive. I can't remember the exact number. Canadian Tire, when I called and asked for auto parts, the person that answered, this is the Canadian Tire in my hometown here, the person that answered at the auto parts desk basically answered like this: "Thanks for calling auto parts. Please hold, please. Thank you." Click. And that's last I heard. I waited online for about 5 minutes and gave up and hung up, so they won't earn my business for a while. The last place that I called, or one of the places that I called, was TNT Auto Parts. And I got this piece right here for $47 plus tax. So thank you, TNT Auto Parts, for actually providing quality products for good prices. And I've run into that quite a bit. TNT Auto Parts and Fortin's Automotive seem to usually have the best prices. And the parts are, I don't know, maybe the parts aren't exactly the same, but you know what? For something like this, give me a break. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in today. So I got the everything taken off still, so it should be pretty easy to start, and we'll see what we can do. Alright, so here we go. Let's see what we got to do here. Now we've got to basically run the sensor in through the back, through the hole right here. So I got to run it in through there, and then it goes into that spot there and screws in. Pretty simple installation. By the way, guys, if you're wondering what that weird humming noise is, that's my flashlight. It actually has a fan mounted on the inside to keep those LEDs cool. That is 40 watts of LEDs running off a 18-volt lithium-ion battery, thanks to some China LEDs and Ryobi OnePlus. All right, so it should be pretty simple. Let's get this through the hole here. It's amazing how cumbersome this is when you're doing it with one hand while holding a camera, while looking at the camera to make sure that you're actually getting it on video. It can become a little bit, like I said, cumbersome. There we go. Alright, there's our rubber grommet. Not a lot of room to work in here. Get that rubber grommet. I'm going to actually just pull it from the opposite side here. Get some extra light going. There we go. That's better. Okay, I think that's in nicely. Alright, so now what I need to do is I need to put a little bit of lithium grease all around, especially around that rubber gasket. That's some thick stuff. Oh, it's like snot. I also noticed that the provided bolt actually already has thread locker on it as well, which is kind of nice. Alright, now let's see how clean our hole is down there. Now, last thing you want to do, of course, is inadvertently push some like rust or dirt into that hole, because that's a very clean environment in there, and it does need to stay nice and clean. Okay, after fumbling with it for a bit, I finally managed to get it in there. The problem is, because it's going around a corner, and then right out of that little hole right there, this is actually quite rigid, and it didn't want to go in very easily. So finally got it, so I'm just putting the screw in now, or the screw bolt. I actually had to pull the rubber grommet out of the way in order to give myself a bit more clearance. Okay, so
Not too tight. Looks good. Now I gotta manage to get this rubber grommet back through in the opposite direction, unfortunately. But it's pretty soft, so it should go pretty easily. There we go. Yeah, no problem. Alright, and that was just plugged in up here. Better handle on it. Yeah, that's pretty gooped up. That should do the trick. Alright, so new wheel speed sensor installed. Oh, now it's a matter of getting these drum brake pins back into place. You can see the hole that the pin was through right there. So I'm going to put that in from the back. And then of course it's got to go through the drum brake and through that godforsaken spring in order to hold it in place. That's going to be fun. Alright, I apologize I had to stop the video for that, but there's no way I was doing that with one hand. But anyway, basically what I did was I used my screwdriver to push in on the bottom of the spring while using the pliers on the actual pin and pulling and turning 90 degrees. I'm going to try it here. Still don't have a tripod, but I'll try it with this side, just holding the camera between my knees. We'll see how this goes. Alright, here goes. So little room here to work. So it's got to go through there. Alright, welcome back. I managed to get the other spring on. It's really tricky, guys, I'll be honest, and there's no way of doing it with one hand or two hands holding a phone between your knees. It's just too much movement. So hopefully in the future I will have a proper setup. Okay, so it's time to put the rotor on. That'll do. Okay, now it's time to put the caliper back on. Alright, I've placed the caliper retainer bracket back into place. Gone ahead and sort of loosely tightened that side. It's not tightened anywhere yet. Just wanted to get it started so that I can actually line this other one up nice and easily. Alright, so retainer brackets in place. I'm going to go ahead and lubricate these little, what do you call them, brake pad brackets. So this is stuff I'm using, Clean Flow, Easy Slide Brake Lubricant. Alright, this is a, it helps to stop squeal. Basically it's a silicone based grease. And yeah, see, silicone based brake lubricant. There. I also like to put it on the actual back of the pad itself. And I got some extra here, so I'm going to use that.
Alright, so, little tip. The brake pad with the squealer on it should always go on the inside. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. Pretty simple, actually. Simple concept. When you have a brake caliper that is not functioning entirely correctly, the side of your brake pads that are going to wear out first, the brake pad that's going to wear out first, is probably going to be the one on the piston side. So on the inside, because that's where the piston is actually coming out. And the last thing you want is for this pad to wear out, and you've been monitoring this pad by looking at it through, the rim or something. So because you can't see this pad very easily, and because it's on the side that the caliper pushes on mainly, it's a good idea to have your squealer on that side. So, a little tip. And I think I learned that simple little tip actually from Eric the Car Guy. So thank you, Eric the Car Guy. Okay, so now our caliper is probably not going to fit right away. Okay, it's not. Well, I'm going to try a little bit of muscle, see if I can get it, because that's all I got, Nope. So it's actually quite tight. I'm going to have to use a C-clamp. Okay, so I got my C-clamp in place. Now, it's a little bit of extra work, but what I've done is I've actually got the bottom part of the clamp here going right into the caliper piston, and the reason for that, I'll be more careful, is because I want to push this caliper in evenly. I don't want to push it on the side, one of the sides, because it might skew it. So I'm going to push it in nice and evenly like this. A little bit of extra work, but a little bit safer for your caliper, I think. Now, I could be wrong, but it just seems logical to me. Alright, so not really requiring too much pressure here. You can see that caliper is going back in. So I tried to do it by hand earlier. I have successfully done it by hand in the past. This is like super simple. I'm literally just moving it with fingers. So it doesn't take much. If it takes a lot of effort, then you got a problem with your caliper. There we go. So let's get rid of that clamp. Put our caliper over top of our pistons, or over top of our brake pads. Wow, I'm mincing words today. Not mincing words, mixing words. See? Even that word I mixed. Brake jobs are really easy on many cars. I have done many a brake job on many a car. Okay, caliper's back on, and just got to put the wheel on, and then we'll take it for a spin, give it a shot, see what happens. Alright, so the first thing we're going to want to do, now that we're back in the car, everything's buttoned up and put back together, is we're going to want to reset. Alright, sorry about that. Wife's car, let's not forget. Alright, so the first thing we're going to want to do is reset the system, because it still is showing a service engine light and an ABS light there on the left hand side. And if we were to start driving, it's going to say stability, traction control, all disabled. So I'm going to go to my fault codes, show my logged faults, make sure that they're still the same. C1224 was the fault. Still C1224. Alright, so let's clear that. Okay, cleared. Alright, so I'm going to shut the car off and turn it back on. Alright, so it still says ABS light, but that's because we haven't driven yet. It hasn't been able to test the actual wheel speeds yet. So let's go for a little drive. By the way, anybody who's curious to know what this is a Android deck that I bought from I bought it on eBay. You can get them on Amazon as well. They're usually anywhere
from like $200 to $300. Sometimes they're a little bit more expensive depending on where you get them from, but they're pretty cool, like what you can do with them. It runs full Android just like you would see on a cell phone. Now, the way that I've got Torque working, Torque is, by the way, for those who don't know, Torque is a program that allows you to figure out diagnostic information from your car utilizing an OBD reader. The one that I'm using is also from eBay. This is a cheap one. This one right here, I actually only paid about $10 for that. There are better ones though. That one, for instance, doesn't work with my Trooper. But the stereo, I think I spent just under $300, like 290 bucks. Runs full Android, runs it pretty quick as well, so it's pretty good. Okay, so let's see how we do.
All right, so it seems to be working great. I haven't had any lights come on, no warnings. Took it for a drive up the hill again, and everything seems to be running great. So, problem solved. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos. I've got lots of projects coming up, so lots of videos to make. Again, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a great day.